and sell businesses, Joe has successfully owned and operated many companies in a variety of industries. This is Local Biz Now. Biz Now, because your business matters.
Yeah! You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. We are coming to you live from Burner Cigar Studio, home of premium cigars and cigar smokers. Great people, exceptional premium cigars. Life is good at Burner Cigars. Go by there on Birkdale Village and also on Highway 16 in Denver, their brand new location. Tell them that Joe sent you and your first cigar is on me. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and there's a reason why this is the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. I'm going to prove it to you. We've been doing this show 11 years strong. I did say 11 years strong. We have over 903 interviews of small business people and community leaders over the years. We have over 716 videos on our YouTube channel. Please go to Joe Vagnone Business Broker on YouTube. That's Joe Vagnone Business Broker on YouTube. I'm trying to up my subscribers. I now have an official 151 subscribers. My one of my co-hosts today, Danny Decker, you remember when I had 2.
I do remember you had 2. I'm impressed.
So my son laughs at my 151 subscribers, but I'm proud of the fact that
Let's go, Joe. You got to start somewhere, man. That's great.
So who you hear, if you've been a fan of the show, you know is one of my favorite people of all time. Danny Decker is the CEO of the Automatic Marketing Agency. He's written a couple of books that are just phenomenal. Danny, my friend, thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. It is really, really good to be back. It has been a minute. It feels great. It's like coming home. It's like a little homecoming.
It is, but it's been a while since you've been on the show, hasn't it? It feels like a while.
It does feel like a while. It's great to be here.
So you are on a special Christmas. The entire month of December is a Christmas gift that Julie and I give some of our favorite guests and co-hosts, and this week is no exception. Let me introduce Tracy White. Tracy, thank you so much. Tracy is operations-focused, global human resource leader, Davidson Group HR Solutions. Tracy, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's been a while, too. I was back in the spring, I guess, of this year.
It sure has. And just so you know, you might not know this, but if you're sitting in that seat, you impress somebody, which means you impress Julie. Because I don't pair you two up, you understand? Julie does this. So
oh, okay.
I don't know why, but Julie have paired you two up today to be on the show together. Have you two met before today?
We have not.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the great things about being on the show, always get to meet some fantastic co-hosts and guests. It's great.
And Danny, as you know, that's what this show's all about. It is nothing more than me networking with people that I don't know, and also want to introduce people to things and information that they may not know themselves. So both of you, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Now, outside of our regular format, both of you, please speak up. Yes, I know everybody says, Joe, you talk too much. I can't get a word in edgewise. But just go ahead and jump in. I don't mind you interrupting me when I'm talking over you, Tracy. Go right ahead and do that. I'm quite used to that. Danny's already got that figured out. He knows how to do that.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
So, Danny, let's start, buddy. You tell me what's going on. The last time we were together, I remember you telling me you were starting a ad agency back again. That's do I got that right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. So the Automatic Marketing Agency, there are 6 of us, full-timers, located here in Charlotte. We've been growing really fast the last year and a half. We work with businesses all over the country, a lot of law firms, but we work with boat dealers. We work with accounting firms. We work with some coaches, some consultants, and basically we are focused in on lead generation through paid social media advertising. So we do a lot of Facebook ads and Instagram ads and LinkedIn ads. And so, when you're at home and you're scrolling your Instagram feed and those ads pop up, that's us. That's what we do. And like I mentioned, we work with businesses kind of all over the country, Yeah, it's been a really good year. You know, the economy is interesting, right? It's been an interesting couple of months.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and as
Yeah.
a marketing person, it's always really interesting when the economy is like sputtering a little
Right.
bit, because you got some people who are like, oh my God, we got to cut costs, we got to stop spending money, right? But then you have other people who are like, oh man, the market's drying up. We
Let's
need
go.
to spend money
Let's
on
go.
advertising.
Right.
So it's like this interesting sort of, dichotomy that we're kind of in the middle of, and it's fun, honestly. It's fun.
So one of the things, Danny, I remember about you for years is you really are this guy that's kind of got a old school approach to modern day marketing, right? I'm a master at guerrilla marketing. I'm the guy that prints the flyer and slides it under your door, right? You know what I mean? That's me, right? That's Joe. You remind me of that guy, but through social media and digital work, like you find a way to get in front of me that is simple and cheap. Did I just ruin your entire marketing, or does that describe kind of your expertise?
No, I actually really like that description, because the thing that's interesting about the marketing space, right, is there's always all this technology, there's all these new, TikTok, and there's all this new stuff, right? And the problem is a lot of people in the marketing space get so excited about the tools and they don't really think about how to use them. And so, from my perspective, like the fundamentals of marketing haven't changed. 200 years ago, 50 years ago, right? Whenever you were sliding your coupons under the door for your
Right.
Was it Sloppy Joe's? Did I remember that correctly?
Oh, you did remember
Yeah,
that.
I thought
Where
so.
are you going to go when you want a sloppy Joe?
Yeah.
Joe's place. That's right.
and like those fundamentals haven't changed. Now the tools are different, right? And now we can use things like meta targeting and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to like get in front of exactly the right people digitally, instead of having to, stick something under their door. But like the concepts, the fundamentals haven't changed. So we're trying to take a proven approach to marketing, which is you got to figure out who you're speaking to. You got to figure out what's the message you're telling them, and you got to figure out the right media channels to deliver that message to them. And like those are the three principles of marketing, regardless of whether you're doing it old school, new school, direct mail, TV commercials, or whatever.
Let me. Okay, I'm going to say this, and then I probably spent half my career doing the exact opposite. But with the restaurant started off as Joe's Place, right? But back in the day, I'm embarrassed to say how long ago it was that I owned all those restaurants. But back in the day, it wasn't about Joe. It was about marketing to people about what Joe could do for you, right? Now, I say that, and I get it, the way you're going to go, Sloppy Joe, that was a whole Joe thing. But I after 3 restaurants, I changed it. I didn't want it to be just Joe, because you walk in, I don't want them to say, where is Joe, right? You see what I'm saying? So we come back, I want to talk about that, because this personal branding is where I'm headed, seems to be different. Let's talk about that when we come back.
That was great.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagno. Can you say it, Danny? Say it, say it, say it. Your
Business matters.
How could you forget that?
I thought it was Friday morning, and I was confused.
We'll be right back.
That's funny. I thought you were going to cue me up if it's Monday afternoon.
Yep. Okay. Was that on the air too? They heard that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Or they will. Okay.
Perfect. Good. I'm glad.
So I was sloppy about asking my question, but you get what I'm saying. Nowadays, they do want this personal brand to communicate the message. Okay. So we get back. I want to be able to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny. As I was asking it, half my life I was the messenger, right? I learned from George Cushell with Showmars, and he was the guy standing up front. But he really wasn't promoting himself. He really was promoting Showmars. But when you heard his voice, because he had a distinct accent, you just knew it was Showmars. You know? So I want to say that that's changed. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe so. We'll talk about it when we get back.
Well, sounds good.
And now, anytime you say Sloppy Joe, it's going to come up on your phone anyway, just because you said it.
Well, nowadays, you understand, all my restaurants were inside office buildings, so it was real easy. I knew where my client was, and I knew that in an hour and a half they were walking in, and in less than 2 hours of being in the office, they were already talking about where we're going to eat. So I knew that flyer had to be under the door by 7:30, right?
There you go.
I love it, man. I love it. Were those restaurants? Those were here in Charlotte, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I own the largest closed market environment restaurant concept in the Southeast. There was a 110,000 square foot office building in and around Charlotte Metro. I had some kind of food service in the building. This was, I tell people, don't be impressed. I had so many of them because, number one, they were small. They were really small, and I would go to the office building owner or manager and say, hey, give me the worst space you've got in your building and I'll give you some kind of food service. And they wanted that because they wanted to attract tenants.
Yeah.
Because occupancy rate was so low in the 80s that they were doing anything they could to get people to come to their office buildings. And now they could say, we've got food service. And so it was very valuable.
Genius.
Mm-hmm. Need it again.
Right?
Are we did I mess up?
Yeah, we need it again with all the occupancy rates
100%.
so low.
That's right. Go to worst board operator ever. Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. I am Joe Vagnone, and I'm here with Danny Decker, the CEO, master marketing man, Automatic Marketing Agency. I'm here with Tracy White. Tracy, what is the formal name of your company?
It's the Davidson Group HR Solutions.
Okay, Davidson, because Julie's got your tagline on here. She wants me to plug you tremendously strong right
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Operations focused, global human resource leader. That's what
Correct.
she's got. Okay.
Yep. I do all kinds of HR, whether it's domestic or even global type of issues that might come up. So.
Okay, got it. I want to make sure I got that right and didn't.
Julie got it all right for
Julie
you.
got it right. Okay. We definitely don't want to make fun of Julie on the air because
Nope.
I feel it afterwards.
I'm sure you do. She's got to keep you in line, Joe.
That's right. So, Danny, I very sloppily tried to ask you a question when we were live, and to talk about personal branding, because from my perspective, right, I don't know when it happened. I became the old school business guy. I somewhere along the line, I was describing this small business that I owned. I was like this young, successful business guy. So, somewhere along the line, they dropped the young, you know what I mean? And then a little bit further along, they dropped the successful, Danny. So, I don't know what happened. I'm out of date and old school. But it seems to me that your personality, your interests seem to matter to your clients more than they ever did before in marketing. Am I just reading that wrong?
No, I think you're right. And there's a lot to this conversation, though. I think the first thing I'll say is, digital marketing is so social based these days. Like, it's mostly video based. And so that lends itself to personality, right? Like, somebody who is a good communicator, can do well on video, knows how to use social media, is just gonna be more effective, right? So that's kind of number one. But then number two is I really think it matters the type of business that you're in, right? If you are in the consulting space, right, where your client is hiring you, then your personal brand is everything because they're really hiring you, right? And I've sort of done both. So I've had a little of both. On the other end of the spectrum, like with my agency, I don't work personally with every single client, right? I do have involvement, but my team manages a lot of the campaigns. So in that way, I'm not trying to make the message there, come work with Danny,
right?
Because I have a team, right? And so yes, I do some VIP one-on-one level consulting, and I'll market myself for that. But so I think that's what it comes down to, right? Because we work with a lot of law firms,
right?
And for some of them, you are hiring a very specific lawyer who has very specific expertise, and so the marketing's got to be all about him. But others, it's more about the team and the firm, and so you're not trying to make one person the star.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And matter of fact, I might have got this from you, right? Not half of what I know, Danny, came from you, right? Your two books. But as I tried to move away from not just promoting Joe Vagnone as the finest business broker in all the world, right? I started asking the question, why are we so good? One of the reasons we're good, the qualification process that we put buyers through, and all of the prep that we set for the client on the front end. Well, that's Julie, because everybody needs a Julie. So then I found myself deciding, okay, so how do I tell potential clients what it is we do and how we do it? We talk about Julie, right? So
I love it.
It doesn't really matter, right, who it is. In this modern day, the best way to prove and make them comfortable and have credibility is to say, that's who does what it is we do.
I love that. And you also touched on something I think is really important, which even if you are, focused on your own personal brand, at the end of the day, you need to tell your clients what's in it for them, right? Like,
right.
So it's not about how great Danny is and what I know about marketing. It's how can I, show a client how I'm going to make their life better, right? How I'm going to help them make a marketing plan, grow their business, generate leads, generate customers. Like at the end of the day, like they don't actually care about me. They care about themselves and their business. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you got to be sure that even if you're branding yourself, you're still focused on, well, ultimately my client, my customer is the hero of the story, not me.
So let's talk about your first book, and then I want to talk about the second book. Because the first book, there was something about it that was interesting. I felt like it was this old school and modern day combination. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Marketing Simplified, I kind of took the approach, first off, we called it that because people overcomplicate marketing, right? And they make it seem so confusing and so complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. There's really just a few sort of fundamental pieces you got to get right. And that's what Marketing Simplified is all about. And one of the points I make in the book is it doesn't matter if you're advertising on the radio or on Facebook or through direct mail. At the end of the day, you just got to answer 3 questions. Who are your target customers? What is the message that is going to get them to respond? And then how do you deliver that message? Maybe the mail makes sense, right? And actually, direct mail is having a comeback.
You told me that last time.
It is, which is fun, right? And when you think about it, like there's so much less junk mail now in the mailbox, if you ever pay attention. And so if you send postcards and brochures and things like that through the mail, they're getting noticed in a way that they weren't 10 years ago. But, it doesn't matter. It could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be the radio. End of the day, who are you talking to? What's the message you're using to persuade them? Those are the questions you got to answer.
So now let's talk about your second book. It's been 3 so far, right? Or
no,
2?
2 books. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about your second book.
Yeah. So second book is called The Automatic Marketing Machine. And really that book is about how it's a more practical, hands-on, how to build marketing campaigns so the first book is a little more theoretical. The second book is a little bit more practical. And we just talk about different strategies, right? From lead generation to brand awareness and things like that.
What your second book did for me was finally allow me to set up a CRM system that automates all the inquiries that come in, right? And then be able to sort of break up through questions that we ask them, right? I learned that in chapter 4, right? Whether we felt they were qualified for this or not. And so we can move an inquiry through, and just for people that are listening, that could be over 100 per week, right? Move them through an automated system. And it doesn't have to be Julie talking to every single one of those people, right? And so that automation is not just for marketing. It is also, once they come in-house, to qualify them in a way that is skillful so we can handle more clients. And that came from your book, Danny.
That's awesome, Joe. That's really great to hear.
Yeah. So for me, when I hear automation and I use it for operations, would you agree that operations and marketing kind of go hand in hand? Because what I just described for you is how I sell my clients.
Yeah,
I tell them, don't worry about it. I promise you, literally, as soon as somebody fills out an NDA, we are immediately communicating with them. We are immediately having conversations with them. And that automation I use as a sales tool to get new clients.
Yeah. So one question that I have is, in this digital world that we live in today, and everything's so instant, instant gratification, instant information, but also I think a lot of companies tend to get negative, instant responses. And so many people, are so quick to go out there to make negative comments or
Right.
negative things, whether it's about a person or a company or whatever. How do you help combat that from a marketing
Yeah.
standpoint?
No, that's a great point, Tracy. And you have to be proactive and you have to move quickly because it does happen quickly. Sort of first thing I would say to that is that's an example of why it's so important to always be trying to add good reviews to your listings too, right? And ask your customers to leave you reviews because that way when somebody does jump out and leave a bad review, which listen, it's going to happen. Like everyone's going to get a bad review at some point, but ideally you've already got 15 good ones there. And so that one bad one doesn't tank everything. And the other thing I just say is just be authentic. Like if somebody leaves a bad review, reply to it. And sometimes it's just somebody making something up out of left field and you can call them out on it. But other times you can say, yeah, we screwed that up. We'd love to do better. Come back tomorrow and we'll do it over again for you, right? It's a chance to show, that you really care and yeah.
So, guys, both of you, here's my advice when small business people ask me. Number one, don't argue with when somebody's reviewing. That's their perspective, right? So don't argue with that. Would you both agree with that one?
Oh yeah.
I would agree.
And then the second thing is respond as quickly as you can. Get back to them. It's so amusing to me. I either hear people complaining and wanting to make fun of the person that sent the review, or 2 weeks later they want to reply. By then,
Everybody forgot about it.
well, and there's 2 or 3 other reviews that have already dropped in, and so it misses the whole point.
The other thing I've seen that's interesting is there's some data on this that consumers trust a review more if it's not perfect, right? Like if you have 100 reviews and they're all 5 stars, people are like, that doesn't seem right. That seems fake. They paid for those testimonials, right?
Right.
But if you have a few of those negative ones mixed in, now it looks real. So, you want to get some negative reviews every once in a while. It just makes you seem like a real person.
Well, what's real is how you respond. I mean,
It is.
Bingo.
Let's face it. We complain and get complained to, and it's how we respond and interact and how we actually end up with relationships that we like.
Yep.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dig in a little bit on all manner of HR. Now, don't fall asleep. It's going to be good stuff. You are listening to Local Biz Now. If Danny can do it, say it, Danny. Say it.
Your business matters.
We got to work on that, man. I mean, you really got to work on that.
Bring me back more than once a year.
We'll be right back.
Going to be out there, giving you some nasty.
It is, the reviews are as dangerous and as bothersome as anything that has happened to small business for us. For example, my wife will not go to a restaurant if the stars aren't right or she reads enough of these complaints, or won't buy a product unless...
Oh, yeah.
And the people that are creating the reviews are not qualified to make these reviews.
And some of them aren't even real reviews.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it
is.
The concept is great, right? But the abuse is so bad.
Well, and it's frustrating because Google, Facebook, none of them really help you enough.
Right.
So you get people leaving fake reviews and Google's like, sure, submit it for review. And maybe 6 months later, maybe they'll take it down. But it's like...
And most of the time, they probably don't.
Agreed.
So I know like Glassdoor and LinkedIn and Indeed, same thing for like employer reviews.
Right.
A lot of times it'll just be not true, just
Right. Well,
absolutely not true.
just the people are willing to spend the time
Right.
to type a half a page are mad.
Exactly.
Or you get the disgruntled employee,
Right.
you let somebody go, and then they come
Exactly.
and leave like this terrible review, and it's like, well, you want to just respond like, you were a terrible employee, like
Exactly.
like that's why I fired you.
It's like, can I give you a review?
Yeah,
Let me
right?
tell you,
Yeah.
that's why you don't work here anymore. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a wild environment.
it is. It is. And I know from, just from a business standpoint, like Joe was just saying, his wife won't even go to a restaurant to where the stars don't align, Um, and it happens. I can't say I've not, gone online and looked at Open Table or whatever. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
they have really bad service.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we want to go there?
If I'm in a new city and I'm looking for a restaurant, I look at Yelp and I
Yep.
go for what's my 4.5 stars and above, and
Yep.
that's usually leads you in a good place too, honestly.
And as
It
a
does.
restaurant guy, I get so frustrated because I'll read these people trying to be food critics describe, and I'm
And they're not
knowing they have no qualifications
No.
or
Right.
skill set
No.
to be doing this at all, right?
Right.
And they take this seriously. I bet they took more time typing that than they did eating those chicken fingers and fries that they're talking about.
Probably.
And
Yeah,
it
man.
really angers me that I have to watch this, or I feel sorry for the restaurant operator.
Yeah.
That if you don't respond to that crap,
And
it will affect you.
The bad part of it is, regardless, a lot of times people don't take that time to make a review unless it's exceptional or really bad.
Bingo. And even when it's exceptional, they probably still don't as much as if it was really
Exactly.
bad. Like it's the
It's
really
real
bad
bad.
ones that everybody they want to leave there.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
How many seconds I got? Yeah. Number one live talk business show in North Carolina for 11 years strong. 903 interviews of small business owners and community leaders. Well over 700 videos on my brand new, it's no longer new, YouTube. It's been a good year since I've got the new YouTube channel, Joe Vagnone Business Broker. Again, Joe Vagnone Business Broker. Please go by there and subscribe on YouTube. It is a phenomenal YouTube channel that Julie and company have set up with a lot of good quality videos and information on there as well. I am here with Danny Decker, CEO of Automatic Marketing Agency, and Tracy White. Tracy is the CEO and founder of Davidson Group HR Solutions. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Tracy, we were kind of talking off the air a little bit, and it's funny how a marketing person like Danny and a HR person like you have so much in common. It's kind of interesting, and I would tell you, you two represent the two most important issues of small business owners. These are the two things I talk about with small business people all the time: HR personnel issues and marketing, right? I think that's why Julie wanted to put you two together.
Yes, and we were talking, when we were at break. Marketing is no different for me as it is for him. I'm just trying to get people into the organizations and recruit. So recruiting and marketing are the name of the game. I mean, it's employer branding for the companies. And again, like I said, just trying to get the right people for the organizations that we recruit for. So
I'm curious, in a larger scale, because I've never done this because nobody would hire me, you understand? If I'm an employee in a mid-level role, right?
right.
Am I promoting in a positive way myself and the company, and is the company okay with that?
Yeah, and I think that especially as a candidate, if you're out there looking for a new job, you're really marketing yourself. So it's really important. Like a lot of people, of course, use LinkedIn. LinkedIn
Right.
is the top, website today for professionals to network, find jobs, things of that nature. I
I
know
find
businesses.
LinkedIn to be the most professional place on the web, period.
Sometimes it gets a little cloudy out there.
Does it? Well, you're on it more than I am, that's for sure.
Sometimes it gets a little cloudy out there,
Right.
and maybe not so professional, and you think, okay, this is not Facebook,
Right.
people. This is LinkedIn.
That's right.
But I think it's really important for people to remember that when they're out there, especially if they're still in the job market. And if you're representing your organization, because a lot of organizations and things have web pages on LinkedIn as well, and I think that's very important.
So, I don't allow people just to come on the show and be co-host unless you bring something from the Google. So
Oh yeah,
you brought something.
I did.
And I want to talk a little bit about it, okay? And your article is the key regulatory issues for small businesses to watch out for 2025.
Yes.
I thought this article was kind of intriguing, and I kind of want to go over some of these issues.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Danny, if you can keep up, okay?
I'll do my best, but no promises.
The first one, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I'll get bored.
Right.
But taxes and tax credits, they are going to change substantially because every 4 years, that's an issue.
That is, and we are going to have a new administration coming in, and some of the tax cuts that were even put in back in 2017 are going to be expiring in 2025. So some of the job tax credits and things of that nature. So definitely something to watch out for. Definitely something that you would definitely need to talk to your tax accountant more than probably an HR professional, but HR can help you identify what some of those could be.
This next one, I was surprised it was on the list, right?
Right.
That HR would help with retirement.
Correct.
Walk me through that, because I always thought I needed to hire, if let me rephrase that, my wife needed it, because I'm never going to work for a large company, but my wife would not go through her organization for retirement advice, but would go to a third party outside. So I was surprised to see this on here.
So retirement is a key issue, and there's a lot of states that are requiring employers to provide retirement plans for their employees.
Really?
Even for small businesses. Now, North Carolina is not one of those, but if you even have just a few employees in other states, some of those states are going to have requirements for retirement.
Right.
So, and those,
Danny, say that 5
Yeah.
times.
I'm not going to walk into that one.
yeah. And so some of those things, it could be a 401k, it could be an IRA, but there are going to be some state requirements, even for small businesses. So I think understanding that to make sure that you are getting your people prepared for that retirement scenario. And depending on the size of the company, if you do have a 401k, those 401k providers will provide a lot of education, and HR can bring those in and help with that, and also help coordinate those efforts and make sure that you are being compliant with those retirement requirements.
It really is very helpful because my wife and I are getting of the age,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And there are timing issues and things that really apply. That if you've worked for the company for a long period of time, my wife worked for the same company for 32 years, you don't even think about that, right? So
You don't.
This really is a benefit
It is.
that otherwise I would not have thought of.
It is. It's a huge benefit. And even if, people are working longer and longer too, so people aren't retiring at the 65 age,
Right.
People are retiring, 70, 75, 80 even. And there's a lot of benefit issues that go along with those retirement scenarios. So making sure that your benefits, not only just for Medicare and those types of things are being covered, but the benefits for the organization. And there's a lot of coordination there with those two things.
So we're talking about key regulatory issues to watch out for 2025. And we are doing that with Tracy White. Tracy is the CEO and founder of Davidson Group HR Solutions. So the next one on the list is paid leave.
Yes, paid leaves. And one thing I want to let you know, I am not the founder of the Davidson Group. I am an affiliate of the Davidson Group. So we are all affiliates of the Davidson Group. So
Okay.
we're all individuals that basically go out and brand ourselves.
Okay.
So just wanted to correct you on
Okay.
that so that
Listen,
my cohorts in crime aren't being like, what?
let me, Tracy, let me tell you something. There's one reason why I've been here 11 years, and that's because the owner wants you to disagree with me, argue with me, and correct me. He calls that good radio. So
Yes.
don't worry about correct
It's
me
good
anytime
radio.
you want.
It's good radio. But yes, paid time off. And again, there's over 40 municipalities in the state, in all of the states in the U.S. right now that are requiring different types of paid time off. And it could be for sick time, it could be for medical leave, paternity leave, whatever. And some of those are even for really small businesses. So you could only have, maybe one person, and maybe it's a state requirement, and you've got to provide that.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Now, my wife worked for the same company for 32 years. Man passed away, right? It was a rather large company.
Right.
And then she went to go work for JLL, a really, really large, exceptional
very large
company. And they offered her what they called an executive leave or time off plan. That is just, if you need time off, just take it, right? And so, now listen, I'm a small business guy. That's what we do, Danny, right? Right. But my wife came home with this executive plan. It was the first time she had been presented with it. And I read it, and I was kind of curious, like, why didn't everybody just do this? Like, why do we have to name whether I'm sick or not? I don't want to come to work, right?
I know. I know. I know. And
walk me through the difference here.
I know. And there are so many differences because you have what's called sick and safe laws. So sick and safe time for some of these states. And it has to be very specifically set aside for sick leave or medical leave. So, and it has to be paid in certain states. And again, some of those states, you may only have one person. Let's say as a small business, most of your folks are sitting in the state of North Carolina, which doesn't have those requirements, but you've got one salesperson in California. Well, guess what? California has those requirements.
Right.
So even if you only
is this like an hourly rate problem that we've got? I'm having I'm having a hard time understanding why I have to define that they just need time off.
Well, it's all those lovely state requirements. It's our legislation at work, whether it be federal or whether it be state. So, it's all those fun things that you have to keep up with that, as a small business owner, you don't have time to keep up with all those things.
So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll dig into this a little bit more because there's a couple more on this list that are really interesting.
Okay.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and if it's Monday afternoon, Danny, can you say it?
I think Tracy needs to say it.
Your business matters.
Yeah, she's got it down. We'll be right back.
We have a client that does some work in that space, and it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And from the business perspective, it's like, so I can pay an AI bot a 20th of what I would have to pay for a person.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I use AI all the time.
Well, and same. And people, it used to be like, oh, low-level jobs are going to get replaced. But now we're talking lawyers.
Yeah.
This article I was reading was talking about judges, could eventually, that could just be an AI thing.
That's scary.
Tax accountants, just all sorts of like white collar, high end. And that's interesting. And that's kind of crazy.
It is
and
crazy.
it's not here today, but
it
probably
could
be here in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Like at scale.
Yeah, it could be. And I know that for the one client that I have right now, they, like I said, they have this whole AI department. And their intent is not necessarily to eliminate positions, but to be able to get rid of minutia on the early part of it to make their people more efficient.
Yeah. which ultimately sort of does equate to not having to hire as many people.
Not hire as many, but maybe you're not getting rid of people.
Yeah, right,
So,
right. That's so interesting.
yeah. So you're maybe, as you get new clients, you don't have to add as many people.
Yeah.
But
There was a tech company we have another 30 seconds? You look like you're about
You're good.
Yeah, there's a tech company that it was an interview with the CEO, and he basically said, yeah, because of AI, we stopped hiring this year. He was like, we typically would hire between like 100 and 300 people a year. And he was like, we didn't fire anybody, but we have churn. And as we have churn, we just didn't replace them. And so, this year there were about 300 people that he didn't hire. Like, he didn't fire anybody, but he also just didn't hire anybody.
Yeah.
Because AI can do the job.
And that's what I think a lot of companies are going to see. And I think, just even the Boeing strike that was going on, they, some of the things that they wanted to make sure weren't happening was, automation.
Yeah.
Which is AI.
Which is foolish to tell your company you can't.
Yeah, you can't be
automate.
progressive.
I mean, I didn't understand the fight for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk to me, JoJo.
Oh, well.
How about those Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, well.
Are you a Panthers fan?
No.
Oh, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, so we got Daniel Jones. We took Daniel Jones off your hands.
All right.
Yeah, you are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, where your business matters. I want to talk to you for a second about Burner Cigars. Burner Cigars has been a sponsor of the old studio, and now they're a sponsor of this new studio for Local Biz Now. Please go by and see them. They're in Birkdale Village and also Highway 16 in Denver. The first cigar is on me. Just tell them you heard it on Local Biz Now or WSIC, and they'll be more than happy to take care of you. If you are a cigar smoker or you have a family member that's a cigar smoker and don't know what to get, if you go by there, all you got to do is say, what's new? And they'll give you a list of stuff that's good. Go on by there and burn a tasty one. I am Joe Vagnone. This is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. And today I'm talking with my buddy, whether he will admit it or not, Danny Decker. Danny is the CEO of Automatic Marketing Agency. We're also talking with Tracy White. She's affiliate of Davidson Group HR Solutions. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
So we were talking before the break about key regulatory issues that us small business people need to take a look at in 2025. And first we talked about taxes, then we talked about retirement, then we talked about pay, leave, and now we're going to talk about wages and hours. I'm a little concerned. I believe that, and I can't believe this under the new administration, I think they're going to change the minimum wage. I really believe it's going to happen. It reminds me of years ago when I had my restaurants, minimum wage was $2.20, I think. It was so nominal that you didn't even think about it.
Right.
Well, this $7 now is that same point, right? So
right.
I got a feeling they're probably going to change that. Is this one of the things we're talking about?
It is one of the things. One of the things is minimum wage is looking to change in a lot of different states. Some states have the gradual increasing minimum wage already in place. The other thing, too, that really is impacting some of my clients or could have impacted, that the minimum wage for exemptions. So if you were a salaried employee and you weren't eligible for overtime, there's a wage minimum. And that wage minimum changed in July of this year. It went from $35,000 to like $45,000. I mean, it was a huge increase this year. Well, it was also planning to change as of January 1 of 2025, and that's been put on hold. And it was going to go to a whopping 56 or 58,000. I mean, it was significant.
Right.
So where even small businesses, if you've got salaried employees, that meant that everyone in those jobs now would, even if they were over that minimum and you had one or two that weren't, they were all now going to be eligible for overtime. And that really could impact the bottom line to a lot of the businesses. And that's one of the reasons why it got put on hold, was because that wage amount was such a significant, especially from the beginning of January of 2024 to January of 2025. I mean, it was, a double digit
Right.
In the thousands,
Right.
increase. And that was just such a big. So we'll see if it stays on the low, still being put on hold. But Texas, there was a court case in Texas that actually got it to be put on hold. And it was just put on hold like in late November. So everyone was gearing up. I was helping my clients gear up for this change coming in January. And then thankfully it didn't happen because it was really going to impact some of my clients.
Yeah. And, all of these wage things and hour things, what concern me is government's trying to make these wholesale changes and they just don't apply. Each industry is different and unique. And that's what government misses, right?
It does.
That's where the federal government misses, right?
Yes.
So I don't have a problem with the concept of small business people need to be fair. The problem I have is, this top-down approach. For example, small business wages worked its way through with the pandemic. Walmart started paying, $15, $12 an hour. I mean, $20 an hour is minimum wage for most of these distribution jobs now.
It is. And honestly, in, Charlotte, $20 is minimum wage even for a lot of your fast food restaurants. So
That's right.
And now it's really not about that $7 and some odd cents an hour that, is the state minimum wage in North Carolina. So I couldn't even tell you exactly what it is because I don't have to worry about it anymore because the wages are all so much above it.
Well, as a small business person, that was my point, right? When it gets to a point that we're no longer thinking about it, whether we're going to hire somebody or not, it's probably going to change.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Danny, what she said was exactly.
All right.
So, okay, let's move on to the last one.
Right. That's the most interesting one.
Artificial intelligence and privacy.
Yes.
That's the one that got me, right?
Yeah.
How is that going to affect in a HR way?
So in an HR way, a lot of companies now are putting regulations around how you use AI in the workplace. So if you're going in and you're finding documentation to put onto the website of the company, like in your world in marketing, if you're using that for marketing purposes, are you plagiarizing? Are you doing, how are you getting that information? Are you making sure that those things aren't being plagiarized or their original ideas and information?
Or just that they're accurate, right?
Or
Because
that they're
AI
accurate.
does also just make things up sometimes.
It does. It makes things up, and it.
Whoa!
Where does it come
AI
from?
makes things up.
Oh, you haven't heard
course.
about that? So there was a lawyer in New York last year that got disbarred because he used ChatGPT to create some pleadings for one of his cases, and ChatGPT just made some things up. They cited some case law that just didn't even exist.
How
and
can
this
that be
lawyer didn't
possible?
double check it, and he got disbarred.
So exactly. So that's a great HR issue right there.
Right.
So, if this guy was working for a firm, guess what? I'm guessing he got fired.
Right.
So not only did he get disbarred, but he no longer, was working for whatever firm that may be. So,
But God bless him, because I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that this, I call it the Terminator, that the Terminator would make something up.
It makes things up.
it does. And the bad part of it is from an employee relations and from a privacy standpoint, you can ask it to take a picture and manipulate the picture into something that it's not. So you could, if you had an employee that you didn't like at work or, a coworker, you could say, hey, make this look like this person's stealing from the company or taking something that they shouldn't be taking. And now it's a privacy and security issue. So,
Wow.
Yeah. And, it's also a big integrity issue. So when you look at all of those things, it really does become a huge HR nightmare because that's why so many companies and even states are putting laws in place in regards to how you handle AI.
So, Danny, heck, man, I would have thought you're using AI daily to come up with creative, cool, poetry, written marketing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, You're saying, Joe, I got to be careful about that.
You got to be careful.
You
You
do.
still can use it for exactly what you just said, but where you really have to be careful is when it's citing facts. You wanna verify.
You do.
Because it's not.
How can the Terminator pull information that doesn't exist?
Well, it's complicated, but it's
Right.
it's generative AI, and so what it means is it is telling you what it thinks you want to hear, and if it has to make something up to do that, it will.
It will.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
The
you.
Terminator's trying to please me?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And it's this whole new world that we're all gonna have to live in, because it's not going anywhere. And so many companies now are working toward their AI platforms. A lot of them even have own divisions of AI of how they improve their own businesses with it. So yeah, it's going to be a whole new world.
And what's like interesting about all this, Tracy, is that companies like yours are going to have to figure out something in the employee manual to deal with it before it's even really completed, right? I mean,
exactly. I mean, there's already, I've already worked on handbooks to where there's policies and procedures about how to use AI in the workplace.
Wow.
Well, like you said a minute ago, Joe, like it's hard enough to regulate it at a company level, but the idea that like states and the federal government are going to try to regulate this thing that is developing, so it's how would you ever regulate it? Like I don't know how you could do it. In a company, it's hard enough, but like regulate it federally.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I saw an interview on one of the television shows that the founder of Google said the best way to do that is through another AI algorithm that is watching the first AI. So the second AI would have caught the first one lying.
But the problem is then the two AIs start joining forces, and then we're all done. No more humans.
That's like the old adage of the hen, the wolf watching the hen house or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh,
we're gonna have a red Terminator and a blue Terminator.
Exactly, and they're gonna be fighting each other in that old school little boxing match.
Yeah, that's right. Guys, I just can't get old fast enough. I mean, I got to get out of this. It's just not something I can comprehend. Whatever happened.
Within the next 6 months, we're just going to have an image of you sitting there,
That's right.
and it's just going to be AI.
Well, that's okay, because whether the AI or it's me, we really don't know what we're talking about anyway.
Yeah.
We're making stuff up anyways. Thank you guys so much. Danny Decker, Automatic Marketing Agency, my friend. How can they reach you?
Yeah, automaticmarketingagency.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
And Tracy White, affiliate of Davidson Group HR. How can they reach you?
You can look us up at Davidson Group HR Solutions.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed the show.
So have I.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and let's see. Danny, try it.
Your business matters.
We got to work on that, man. We'll see you next week.